Okay, in this individual oral, I'm going to talk about the global issue, how women are expected to stick to stereotypical representations of their gender. The literary work I've chosen is William Shakespeare's Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 5, lines 48 to 83. And the non-literary body of work I've chosen is Disney's adaptation of Snow White from 1937. And I'm going to be looking at minutes 34 seconds to about 4 minutes and 50 seconds. So start with Macbeth. So this is Act 1, Scene 5. Just before this, obviously, Macbeth has shown his valour in battle. He has received his prophecy from the witches, which he has shared with his wife. He's now travelled to his castle in Inverness. And in this scene itself, we see his wife trying to persuade him to go ahead and to kill the king and to sort of make this witch's prophecy come true. And obviously after this scene, he kills Duncan, he kills Banquo, tries to kill Fleance. Lady Macbeth ends up becoming consumed by the guilt of what she has done, and she ends up killing herself, and Macbeth himself ends up being defeated by Macduff, and sort of natural order is restored. And sort of the whole body of work, the whole play, is really about how ambitious women upset the natural order. For example, the supernatural element of the witches and Lady Macbeth's ambition, and this upsets the natural order and causes chaos. So we see here, for example, the Shakespeare's use of supernatural diction. Lady Macbeth says in line 2 and 3, "Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here." So she wants to get rid of her female gender because she thinks it's weakness, and that in order to have the ambition and decisiveness needed to achieve her goals, she needs to become masculine. And this idea of "come, you spirits," she's inviting these spirits. She's trying to get them to, she's almost making a deal sort of with the devil in order to achieve her ambition here. So this idea that she's willingly trying to engage with supernatural elements in order to get rid of her femininity. She's breaking all the sort of stereotypical representations of gender here. And then later on we have this, in lines sort of 16, 17 and 18, we have this parallelism with when she greets Macbeth, sort of "Great Glamis, worthy Cawdor, greater than both, by all hell thereafter." And obviously it reminds us of the way the witches refer to Macbeth. And it's this sort of parallelism of she has too much ambition, so she's supernatural. And very much in this body of work, supernatural is seen as evil. And later on, she has this, in lines 32, 33, "Be the serpent underneath." It's this use of this metaphor of this snake that Macbeth has to be, how he has to be deceptive, like a snake. Obviously, there's biblical connotations, the Adam and Eve, the fall from paradise, and the idea that if women are ambitious, they have to be deceptive because they don't have the strength to achieve their ends themselves, so they have to do it through deception. And, Macbeth in general, it's the time it was written, there was a period of great upheaval. There was the Gunpowder Plot, there was real fears of witches, and this idea that if you try to upset the natural order, if you try to be king when you shouldn't be king, it's going to cause chaos and it's going to cause your downfall. And certainly I think that there's a didactic element to this. Shakespeare is saying, don't try to upset the natural order, don't try to be too ambitious. And certainly there's an element of, and women, know your place. And so now we're going to move on to my non-literary extract, which is Disney's Snow White. So in this scene, just before this scene, obviously the evil queen has received news that she's not the fairest of them all, that Snow White is. And in this scene, we see Snow White. She's doing some chores. She's singing to the birds, and she's talking about her true love and how that's what she's hoping for. And obviously, after this scene, she will be banished, presumed dead. She finds the dwarves, 7 dwarfs, and sort of domesticates them, teaches them how to clean themselves and things. The witch, the queen morphs into a witch and ends up tricking her into death, but she is saved by her charming prince. And, you know, the queen's ambition here, the queen's ambition to be the fairest of them all, to do things that are unnatural, in this case, killing Snow White, you know, again, that she doesn't do herself, the first time at least. This idea that it's upsetting the natural order, that it's going against what's expected of women. So if we look at the first still, you have Snow White surrounded by these birds, and you sort of have the symbolism of the birds. It's a Disney film, there's lots of symbolism, that Snow White is connected with nature, you know, that women should be at one with nature, that they're good with animals. These are white birds, maybe they're doves, you know, symbolizing peace, symbolizing purity. You know, and this is women's role, really, to be pure, to be beautiful, to be at one with nature. And she's singing, you know, as the birds are gathered round, and she's telling them a secret. And obviously that secret is, we have a close-up because she reveals that she's waiting for sort of her one love. She says, "I'm wishing for the one I love to find me today." And so we have this close-up to her so we can see her expression. The birds are out of shot for a minute, so we can see how important this is, you know, how beautiful she looks. And that's really, you know, a woman's role, is to be beautiful and to wait for love. And even though she's a princess, that is the only thing that she's dreaming of. And then we have this, in our next still, we have this close-up, this long shot of the prince, and he's riding on a white horse. Again, the symbolism of sort of purity and valor. There's the castle in the background to show how majestic he is. And so it's, you know, quite clear that this is Snow White's only role in life, is to be found by this Prince Charming. And I think that it's, you know, how Snow White, again, as a whole links to this GI is, you know, obviously this is based on one of Grimm's fairy tales, and Grimm's fairy tales are often not particularly children friendly. They're fairly gruesome. There's a lot of rape, a lot of bestiality, a lot of violence in them, but Disney sort of takes them and it makes them children friendly, and they tend to be fairly didactic. And here for Snow White, the message is really simple. She, in the end, defeats the witch, or the queen, sorry, not by her intelligence or by her actions, not by her courage, but just because she's beautiful, because otherwise the prince wouldn't find her, wouldn't kiss her, wouldn't bring her back to life. And so that's sort of the message for girls almost. You know, that's what your ambition should be. That's what you should do. You should be beautiful, and you should wait for things to come to you. You shouldn't be like the queen, who tries to go out and be proactive and upset the natural order. And so to conclude, this global issue about how women are expected to stick to stereotypical representations of their gender and femininity is still very relevant today. It's closely related to the UN's Sustainable Development Goal 5, which is gender equality. And this is still a problem for women because in literature, in society, we still have certain representations for what women are expected to be. And women that are too ambitious, that are too dominant, too forceful, are seen as being unnatural. And women should be sort of beautiful, but seen, but not heard. So that, in conclusion, is my IO.